I'm way closer.
Yeah, well, my voice is a lot louder than
True.
yours, so. That was pretty good. Okay, we all cracked out now? Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Blake.
And I'm PJ.
And this is episode 21 of the Church Podcast. And we're going over the cultural value, be humble. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
So, basically, at the church that we were at, they would describe being humble as having a correct assessment of yourself and acting accordingly. So not acting like you're super, super awesome if you're not, but then also not being like, oh man, I suck. So that's what they said, but the way that they would like use this cultural value to check people would really just be if they felt like you are acting prideful. Right?
Well, I mean, I feel like it changes on each person's experience. So, yeah, probably for you, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what would you say then?
I feel like the way that be humble was implemented, the weapon of cultural value, be humble. I feel like it kind of comes back to the submission thing, which I just kind of made a post about what that, what the definition of that is and how it was construed from the Bible. And so, there was times where I didn't understand something or I didn't like something, and I wasn't mad. I wasn't saying, "Oh, I could do that better." It was just like I don't understand why we do this or why we do that, and so the answer was like, well, why don't you talk to your leader about that? Or because like I feel like the underlying, they're insinuating I have a issue with my heart because I'm questioning, or just point blank saying like, why don't you submit? You don't submit to my leadership. You're not going to grow if you can't be under authority. You need to deal with that argument, which an argument in church land is you're believing a devil that's speaking in your ear, arguing, or arguing the truth of what we do. And so it's like, you have an argument. We need to break that off. Like, let's have a meeting and break that argument. That's not, anyway, so being, that was, questioning, not liking the way things are done.
Yeah.
It's like that was prideful. And I just don't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you have somebody questioning why we do things the way that we do it, why wouldn't you just be able to explain it in a way that makes sense instead of being like, why are you asking me this question? You have a spirit of pride in you. We got to like get rid of that. It's like that just ends up making the person more confused. And I feel like they could have had way more like loyalty in people following them, even though, I mean, a lot of us were very loyal anyway. But like, how much better would it have been if they were just like, well, we do this because of A, B, and C, then you'd have a chance to be like, oh, that makes sense, and it's like, I feel like they got deeply offended if anyone asked why we did things a certain way, or if they said, oh, we should like do this and have this family fun day and win the city. If somebody was like, I don't think that's a good idea, maybe we should do this instead, that, might have a greater impact or a greater return on our investment than doing this other thing that nobody really likes doing anyway. Then it was like,
it's just a healthy functioning teamwork.
Right.
You can have a bunch of mindless drones where you're the only one thinking, and we'll just remain this piddly ass church. But what you were saying reminded me of I feel like the scenario was often the pastor person. And when I say pastor, I pretty much mean anyone who was a leader of a department, a leader of a small group, a leader whoever was close with the pastors to glean from their infinite wisdom. They all mimicked the pastors. So when I say the pastors, I'm pretty much talking about anyone in leadership, including us.
Yeah.
We just tried, we were force fed these these values and behaviors and stuff, and we just mimicked them, in more or less. And so anyway, it's we talked about emotional intelligence so much, but they completely lacked emotional intelligence. So everyone lacked emotional intelligence to an extent. Mm-hmm. And my point was that I feel like the label of prideful, you're not humble, usually came because I don't even want to say usually, but in certain cases it came because from my experience, I would talk about something I didn't like, or not even that I didn't like, but I tried to lead. Mm-hmm. It's another thing they talked about, lead up. Well, I tried to lead up with you, and you labeled me as prideful and unemotionally intelligent and all this stuff, which pisses you off because it's no, actually I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And it's and then it just would escalate and escalate. So yeah, I guess I'm thinking of times where I tried to lead up, or I tried to address things that were a problem, and suggest a different way or something, and it was just after so many times of doing that and being ridiculed for that, basically, it starts to piss you off.
Yeah.
And it's hey, I don't like the way you talk to me. It's we were watching, what was that, Married at First Sight, and there's this...
The American one?
No, I don't think it was... The one where he was... Oh, no, so we watched this show called Married at First Sight, Australia, and one of the guys is just a total jerk to this girl, well, lady, they're the oldest couple in the show, and she's she's talking about how sex is important to her, and she used to be really confident about that, and anyway, they're bickering about it kind of throughout the whole season, and he just is totally unresponsive to her. He acts really weird, and in one of his pre-screening videos for the show, he talks about how he wanted to be with somebody who was in their 30s, and he's 60.
Yeah.
And so she's okay, so it's starting to make sense. Were you upset that I wasn't in my 30s? He's no, not at all. And she's well, you just said on the video. He's did I? She's let's rewind it. And they rewound it. And he watched himself say that he wanted to be with someone in their 30s. And then she said, you just said it. You just, see? Yeah. And he's and he literally said something no. And it's do you not see yourself saying those words? How much more clear can you get? And he's just straight up so narcissistic. He will not accept that he is at fault for the things that are going wrong in their relationship. That, I said all that to say, that happened all the time. Mm-hmm. It was to create like just like a picture of what I'm talking about, the way conversations went with these pastors. It was like, whoosh, I'm gonna slap you in the face, PJ. Why did you slap me in the face? What are you talking about? Don't question me. I didn't slap you in the face. Slap you again. It's like, I don't like the way you're hurting me. I'm not hurting you. You're a poor follower, PJ.
Yeah.
I think you need to really examine your heart. It's like, what the fuck is going on in this backwards land? Like, you're the one hurting me, and I'm not humble.
Yeah. And it's really, I feel like that's a really good example, too, of that couple, because, like, throughout the whole season, he doesn't want to kiss her. They don't even sleep in the same bed. Like, and she's just like, let's just, I know you're not attracted to me, but, like, let's just try making out and see what happens. Like, maybe attraction will grow. And then he was like, oh, like, I don't just make out with anyone. But they literally got married at first sight. So, but he keeps trying to say, like, oh, well, maybe, like, after the experiment's over, we can, have attraction grow then. And he keeps, like, saying
Leading
these
her
things,
on.
that lead her on. And then, but the way that he's acting towards her is so, like, he doesn't like her. He obviously doesn't like her, but he won't just, like, say that. And I feel like with the church that we were at, it was, like, the exact same thing. Like, they would say, why aren't you guys, like, leading up? Like, seriously, come on. Am I the only one that's, like, gonna come up with ideas? Like, how come you guys aren't coming up with new stuff to push us forward? And people would try to come up with new stuff, and it would get shot down, and, like, that's not the way we do things. Or, like, people would just try to execute stuff without saying something, and it'd be like, why didn't you talk to me about that before? And it was, like, so frustrating, because on one hand they're like, please do all this, like, we want to grow, like, we want to give away leadership and stuff, and then when we tried to just do stuff, if it wasn't something that came directly from one of their brains, then they just didn't like it anyway. And we were just we had a spirit of pride, thinking that we could potentially do something better than they could, or had a better idea than they did.
Yeah, so interesting. Like, one time I was having a conversation with the executive pastor and my girlfriend at the time, and one of the elders, I think was one of the elders at that time too, because I was getting fed up with her, and I all this stuff had gone down with a group of friends / leaders, members of the church that left, and it was so weird the way it happened and how details were given, not fully and stuff. So it was just like a lot of questions, but I was there. Like, there was a group of people that were there, like, hardcore, were like, we trust you, even though this is weird, like, we committed to this, we're, like, in this for the long haul and stuff. And I felt like she was, it was just a kind of building up in our relationship of tension, me not holding back my actual thoughts, and sharing them to work through it like a normal person, and her getting mad at that.
Yeah.
And so I was just fed up. And so my girlfriend at the time forced me basically to have this conversation and meet with them and have this conversation. And I was like, okay, I'll give it another shot, because we'd been butting heads. And it's like, I feel like I know why we kept butting heads. It's just, the issue at hand was not my issue at hand. Her issue at hand was my attitude, which was her fault.
Yeah.
She was offensive. She was not humble. And I was trying to say, different things over the course of time. It's like a lot of different stuff. And we're having this meeting, and I rolled my eyes. Like, such a like behavior that you just don't even think about. It's just, like an unconscious thing. It's like when somebody does something ridiculous, and she was like, look, you just rolled your eyes at me, PJ. You have a spirit of offense. And my friend, the elder guy, was like literally tearing up. He was so sad that I was so offended and mad at her. It's like, what? Did God not give me the fucking ability to like be angry and like offended? If you're offensive, people get offended.
Yes.
Welcome to
exactly.
life, like reality, and so I was like, I was getting so discouraged with. I was losing hope this conversation was going to end well for me. You know, it just wasn't unless it ended her way, and I was just done with it. I was just tired, and I was like, she started praying in tongues over me. That was the end of it. I was trying and trying and trying to like, you know, explain myself, and just was not being heard to the point where, you know, it was getting kind of heated, and she thought that suddenly she's just gonna deal with this demon. I'm just gonna like pray in tongues over you, and it's like, what the fuck do you say to somebody who's praying in gibberish while you're trying to talk to them? It's like, okay, this conversation's over, I guess. Finish your little prayer.
Yeah.
And we went about our life, and I literally let it go. It was not resolved, and I let it go, and that happened so many times. You know, it's like, wouldn't it have been humble to let me feel things and share that, and then we'll work through that. Work through that. Not cast out my whatever, you know, feelings.
Yeah.
and yeah.
And well, I feel like that's one of the huge issues is that just because somebody is a pastor, they are still human. They are capable of offending people, you know? And if they do something that's offensive, it's not wrong to say, that hurt my feelings. I don't like the way that you said that, you know? And I feel like to them that was just unacceptable. It was like, no, you need to just honor me and kind of deal with however I'm acting, and you need to be humble.
It's really interesting that we're talking about humility and how they kind of put up these safeguards against having to humble themselves.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, if even when they knew they were wrong, it's like, you know what? I need you to give me grace because I'm carrying the weight of the spiritual weight of this church. Or, hey, guys, can you cut her some slack? Cut the executive pastor some slack, you know, because she's fighting demons while y'all are just sleeping around, you know, sleeping in your little bed, all comfy cozy. You don't have to deal with demons or stress or, you know, think about what she's carrying for you. There's a reason you don't have as much burden. It's because she's carrying it for you, this invisible burden. No, dude, like, no, we're humble here, right? Let's just not fucking say that if we're not gonna be humble.
Yeah.
Don't come up with all this bullshit for like, you know, excusing yourself for your bad behavior.
Yeah, and like if being humble to them really means having a correct assessment of yourself, then she should have been able to say, I understand I can be very feisty and hurt people's feelings sometimes. Okay? That's part of my personality I'm working on. If I say something to you in a way that you don't like it, please tell me so that I can fix it and become a better, more loving leader. Is that hard?
No, I mean, yes and no, but I do feel like it takes
True humility.
It takes maturity and strength to, yes, shut your mouth and accept that you might be wrong and not just blow up at people for pointing it out. It's not that easy, especially when you're prideful.
Yeah.
But I forget what I was going to say. Anyway, yeah, so if you weren't humble, if they felt like you had pride issues, it wasn't like, let's talk this out and talk about it. No, you had to pay $130 to go to a freedom weekend so they can cast these pride demons out and these offense demons out and all this shit. And I mean, talk about denial. Like, so that was our best effort to help people grow in emotional intelligence, humility, and whatever else that they thought that people were lacking. And so people would literally leave after these freedom weekends because they would come out of it super stoked, like, yeah, I'm not going to be prideful anymore. Yeah, I'm not going to have to deal with that anymore.
Right.
And they still did, because that's fake, stupid crap.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking excuse to get a bunch of people to pay you for something that's not really that helpful, you know?
Yeah.
I was always so sick of those stupid old ass videos that really were just a joke instead of actually, getting the point across. Anyway, my point is, it's like snake oil. It's like, here, this is going to help you. No. I think if you think I have a problem, us talking about it and actually you having the patience to walk that out with me and maybe accept some of your fault in that, like a relationship, that would be something that might have helped create a healthy culture instead of just passing it off on Satan.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of Christians do that. It's like, well, I'm having a bad day because the devil doesn't like what I'm doing, and, and it's like, okay, I don't know, maybe there's some truth to that, maybe there's not, but everything isn't the devil's fault in, like, that kind of way. And it's like, if you're struggling with something, you can't just, like, I'm going to cast this demon out of me, and then I'm just going to be hunky-dory without having, like, actual tools on how to get over that stuff, And I feel like that was, like, one of the main issues there is, like, people came, like, with, like, addictions and stuff, Oh, I cast the spirit of addiction out. I'm going to be great now. But then they go home and they still want to do whatever. And then they feel bad and guilty because that demon was cast out of me. How am I feeling this way now? Like, what the heck is wrong with me?
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's where that stuff specifically started to go south, was when people had actual problems and they pretended like they knew how to fix their problems and they didn't. And instead of just saying, go to a mental health counselor, I'm not actually qualified to fix this for you. No. Well, I remember when I left, I said, I need to go to therapy. And they said, no, you need to go to small group. And I said, like, right before I left, right after our thing. And I said, no, I need to go to an actual therapist. Like, there's something wrong with me, And they said, no, you need to trust. You need to trust the church, trust your small group leaders. I'm like,
you're not listening hard enough on Sunday because the pastor is telling you what you need to hear. God will speak through him.
Yeah, and it's like, it was just ridiculous. I do have another example, like a story example about the kids' church pastor. Yeah. So one thing that they talked about there was how the senior pastor had an armor bearer. So they basically had this girl who they were like, oh yeah, you are our armor bearer, and really special people in the Bible have armor bearers. They like carry their shield and sword for them into battle. And so they called out this one girl and said, this is the calling that I feel on you. So she was like their spiritual protector, or kind of something like that.
Their assistant.
Basically your assistant that's really close to you and sees all your
assistant
crap.
Does everything for me. And
yeah. But yeah, a cool spiritual title makes you feel really good about yourself. So anyway, so they were talking about how pastors have this type of thing, and so then they appointed like 2 kids' church pastors and a worship pastor, like maybe a year after that. And so then the kids' church pastor, the wife, was like, oh my gosh, like, I think this one girl that's on our team, like, is my armor bearer. Like, she acts the exact same way that yours acts towards you. Like, she's so helpful, like, spiritually and with, like, just...
And this girl was present?
I don't think she was.
Oh.
No, I don't think she was. And, she helps with...
So she's trying to share a positive story, testimony.
I'm pretty sure it was
something
like...
great that's happening in the organization.
Yeah, share a win for this week, something like that. And so she was sharing, like, how excited she was, like, yeah, like, I think I found my armor bearer, like, that's really awesome. And then the executive senior pastor proceeded to tell her how not every pastor has an armor bearer. And how, like, you know, she said it in a way that was basically like only like the really special, like high up ones, you know, have that. And even like there's some pastors of mega churches that don't even have armor bearers, you know. And so like our senior pastor and her like super special for like even having that, you know. And basically made the kid church pastor feel like crap because it's like, okay, well, you're not special enough to have an armor bearer, basically, even though I talk about it all the time. And so it was like, I felt that was super prideful. So not humble at all. Like even if you, I guess even if you did think that, I want to be like, oh my gosh, that's cool. Like, I'm glad that you found that. Like, how come she wasn't happy that she found somebody who she felt like could help her, you know? Like, why did that not make her excited? It's like she was just jealous that she had that too or something. I don't know. It was really strange. And so then, yeah, I felt like that was just a terrible example of being humble. But nobody could call her out for it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know biblically about armor bearers and all that, you know. Even if that's even a thing.
It doesn't matter what you call it. It's having someone that's close to you, and you apparently are, you know, carrying a heavy burden, and so you need help. That's great. Okay, we can call it armor bearer.
Yeah.
But the sucky part about that, and it's really telling of how she was in every other situation, is it's like, no, let's be clear, I'm the best.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's really humble. Like, no, I'm going to, you know, we could be playing Monopoly. Like, she's going to win the game at all costs.
Yeah.
She will hide shit, cheat, whatever. I mean, I don't want to say that's how she is and label her because I'm nice. But, you know, it's like, I mean, I'm pretty damn sure based on my 11 years of being around her every day almost. Like, you're great until you become a threat to my position, or you're great until you start to, like, do better than me.
Yeah.
Then let me tell you how much you suck. So my opinion of be humble and maybe of all the cultural values, well, I think writing down the cultural values is, I mean, I've talked about it kind of like before. I feel like that's cool for a business because you are actually, you know, paying somebody for their talent. You know, it's like at church, it's not that way.
Yeah.
At church, it's just like us. We're a family. We just are together. It's just like this is our people.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. Writing down the cultural values is kind of ridiculous because of the whole premise of Christianity is that we are sinful. We need Jesus. We're not good. Like, you know, we all do bad things. So why are we going to say we're this and then try to hold each other to that?
Yeah.
We're not fucking humble. Duh. Nobody's humble. Maybe some people are, like, less humble than others. But, like, if they're not asking for help with that, keep your mouth shut. It's their business.
Yeah.
You know, unless they directly cause direct harm to you like the pastors did. And say something then like I did.
Yeah.
And if they don't respond, if they don't, you know, accept that and it just gets worse, leave like we did.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like that's the whole point of Jesus. We're here. We're all here because nobody's better than the other. You know, we're all equal in value. We all make our own different mistakes. We're at different levels of maturity. Like, you know, that's fine. And that's great. And it just seems like the whole, you know, writing the cultural values on the wall. Like we were talking to somebody this week who was there for a while and highly committed and constantly working on different stuff. And he was telling me he grew to just hate that wall. It's like, why would you? It's like you know.
Because I feel like the thing with that, it was like, it was put up there to be like, let's celebrate this, But what it ended up being was like just tools for further correction, instead of like saying, oh my gosh, like this week, like, so and so like showed a lot of humility for this, or this week so and so is like really honoring by doing this. It's like you call out people for not doing it instead of like praising people that are doing that. It's like with a little kid. It's like if they do something you like and you tell them that you like, thanks for doing that, that's so awesome, like they're gonna want to do more of that. But if you're like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, they're like, what do I do? And then they have a tantrum. It's like, it's the exact same thing. And I feel like with this one specifically, it was like one of the main tools that they would use to just force people into submission and make you feel like you needed them. Like, oh man, I have a spirit of pride. Oh, thank you, Pastor, for pointing that out. Hate it.
Yeah. Thank you for chewing my ass out.
Yeah.
Making me realize how low and pathetic I am.
Right? And then she's like, oh, you're welcome. Do you think I like doing that? No, I don't.
You're welcome, but don't talk to me for a couple days because I'm still mad.
Yeah.
She literally said that to me like, ugh.
Yeah. So I feel like that's where this specific cultural value got way off track, because it wasn't just like, yes, we want to be humble as Christians. We want to serve people. We don't want to like think super highly of ourselves like when we're not. I don't want to think that I'm better than like some random person that walks into the church, Like I'm trying to make sure that they get to heaven, so I'm not going to try to act like I know it all and I'm better than them. Like I feel like that's where like that value stemmed from, but then it morphed into just, well, you have pride, you need to submit to me, or else I don't even know if you should even go here if you're not going to submit to me. Like, do you even belong here?
It just somehow always became so neurotic,
Yeah.
like the cultural value, saying we're humble. It's neither here nor there, I guess, kind of going back on what I just said, It's like, cool, let's write the stuff on the wall, whatever. Like, cool, like decorations, that's fine,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it just became so hard to get along.
Yeah.
We went through that when we were talking about the worship summit. Did we even talk about that yet? The worship summit?
Not in this episode yet.
Going through the book, the 5 dysfunctions of a team and stuff like that. Like, it's like we became so dysfunctional. Like every department, it was like, it's like somebody who is obsessive compulsive, and that was our whole church. Mm-hmm. Everyone was obsessive compulsive. It wasn't like, oh, great job, like making that look so great. Like there was times where we said stuff like that, but for the most part, it came after all the like micromanaging and criticizing,
Because then it ended up being, oh, thanks for making that look so great, after I told you how shitty it looked, and you basically just made it look exactly how I wanted it to look, even though I'm not a designer and I really don't know what looks good. But if it doesn't look like that, then I don't think it's good, and then we can't print it. Yeah. That's what that was.
Yeah. I feel like there's got to be more juicy examples we can come up with.
Well, I feel like there's probably other examples that people experienced, so if you're one of the people that went there and you feel like you have an example that we didn't share, or a specific personal example, then you can share it with us, and we'll share it maybe in one of our other episodes. We'll leave your name out, obviously.
I mean, unless you don't want us to, but...
Yeah.
Don't want us to leave your name out.
Oh.
We definitely want you to talk about that stuff, which reminds me, some people have been, like, leaving comments or writing to us, and it's really awesome and like really good to know. You know, I think it's good to know that they're appreciating that they weren't the only ones going through that, and it's the same thing for us when somebody says something like that, because it's like, okay, cool, like we're not crazy either. Because I mean, like, I don't know, it's like sometimes I feel like wanting to do this podcast kind of comes from like my trauma, you know, wanting to mull it over and over and figure it out, and also kind of hurt them. You know? So it's interesting. Yeah, I feel like, you know, if you were messed up from that place, it's helpful to other messed up people to know, and we'll be messed up together and get through it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I do want to do a couple of episodes where we could do some FaceTime calls with people that went there, and they can share their story from their perspective, and you know, how it was when they got there, kind of what happened and why they ended up leaving. Yeah. I think that would be really just interesting. Like, I feel like that's the most interesting part. Like, when we listen to, like, the Dad Challenge podcast and stuff, when he's sharing specific stories of things that happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, the church that he went to sounds just like the church that we went to. Yeah. And so I love hearing, like, those specific stories, because I'm like, oh, you just like, it's so relatable, you know? Yeah,
speaking of being messed up together and humility, it's like saying that you're messed up there would just not be acceptable. It's like, why are you being negative? Like,
oh my gosh.
Like, you know, don't speak that over yourself. Speak life. You know, maybe the reason you're not growing is because you think that way. No. Actually, it's really the other way around. You know, I feel like the pastors themselves were so messed up, could never truly share that, and so they just became more messed up. Because it's like, you just swept it under the rug. You didn't actually, you know, you had an issue and you did nothing about it. And but then you get mad at people
They would teach people to do that.
Like, inadvertently, I feel like.
No, okay, I have an example I want to share now that, like, it just totally reminded me of it. Okay, so we were at a staff day, or team day, whatever they called it. So there was about, like, 10 people who would come. They'd have, like, they would take all Thursday off work, you know, would come and work on church stuff. Like, they would literally schedule this around, they would schedule their work schedule around this, which is, like, got some committed people there, you know. And so one day, the executive pastor was going around the table saying, scale up 1 to 10, how do you feel? There were some like 4s, some 9s, some, you know, like all over the board. And then she was like, if you feel like less than like a 9, you seriously like need to check yourself. Like, you tell yourself that you're excited today and that you're a 9 today, you know? And so then everyone is like, yeah, oh, that's right, pastor. Like, yeah, I need to like tell myself that like I feel so good, and then I'll be good. You know, and okay, that's fine if you're like feeling off a little or something sometimes, but for the most part, like if something's really bothering you, that's really just not going to be helpful. And so then what happened was, like,
I think that's what they call toxic positivity.
Yes, exactly. So then a couple weeks later, everyone is like, oh, I'm a 9, pastor, I'm a 10, pastor, and you could tell some of them weren't, you know. And then she had the nerve to get upset at the people who she could tell weren't 9s. And she was like, why are you saying that? Like, why are you hiding what's wrong? And I'm like, dude, you literally just told them to not tell you if they're like upset, if they like feel like a 5 that morning. Like, you told them to tell themselves that they're a 9 or 10 anyway. Now they're doing what you said to do, and then you get mad at it. It's like, literally, you could just do nothing fucking right ever. It's like, I told you to do this, and then you do it. Why are you doing that? It's like, so frustrating. It's like, and then of course, like, everyone else is agreeing with the pastor. And so then you're like, well, I must be crazy then. And I feel like that's why people are connecting with this, is because we weren't allowed to talk about stuff like that there. You know, and so then it made you feel like you're just the crazy one because you don't agree with how you're being treated, but you can't say anything because to your face in front of the pastor, everyone else is like, oh yeah, she's right, you need to act this way, or you need to speak up if something's bothering you, blah blah blah.
It's really interesting because the people that I most have a problem with from that time are the people who are not, I guess, accepting that they are messed up. And maybe they're doing it amongst themselves, obviously, not everybody's like posting their shit like we are.
Yeah.
But you would think that would lead them to contacting us or something. I understand you're mad, like we did something bad, we're all moving on. Maybe it's not even crossing your mind. Mm-hmm. But I doubt it. How much we all went through together, how close you were with people, the people I was close with, who, definitely some of them have come to us and we've talked and
Mm-hmm.
and it's like great. My heart completely changes like without even I don't even have to try.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like I'm so glad they talked to me. Mm-hmm. I feel so much different about it. It's so much easier to give them grace. Mm-hmm. It's almost impossible to give someone grace who kicked us while we were down. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's it. We'll just call it that. Like, kicked us while we were down, and then now time has passed, and they've never said anything. Mm-hmm. I'm still mad at you. I'm still mad at you for everything that happened. And I blame you for a lot of it. Because that's not humility. It takes humility to really suck and do something wrong and then apologize. Mm-hmm. And it just, I feel like, for example, the things that people said to you, mm-hmm. which we're going to talk about. We're going to share text messages in an episode and talk about that. The things that were text to us in the whole, the whole breakdown of our time there. It's like, it would be so easy mm-hmm. to just send you a message and say, I can see how what I said pushed you away.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But nothing. Fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it just wouldn't be that hard. It's like between me and your ex, yes, that's a totally different situation.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about at all.
I don't even know how to approach that.
Yeah.
Or, and if I would even come out alive. Because I don't feel like he wouldn't be justified. Yeah. But between me and someone else who was just a fucking bystander, had nothing to do with it, should have been a neutral party, should have helped us both, mm-hmm. and they said things to me, it's like, no, you're full of shit. Like, you can shoot a text message and say, I could have done better. I was mad at you, or whatever. Why is that relationship just gone now?
Yeah.
And it's not on me. I did nothing to you. You don't say like, oh, you really hurt my friend, so now I'm super hurt. No, fuck you, dude.
Well, that's what they did.
That is what they did.
And that's what they were told to do, which is why I was thinking, oh, well, now that church we're at is completely like, not really even a thing anymore, nothing at all. I would think that the people who were there would realize, like, wow, I was definitely manipulated in multiple situations. I was told to send mean texts to Blake and PJ, even though my gut told me, oh, that's kind of mean, but I'm going to do what my pastor says anyway. I would think that after they left, they would be like, maybe that wasn't the best thing for me to do when my friend was hurting and didn't know what to do, and I helped push them away. You know?
You know what takes humility? Is being in a position of leadership and having your followers come to you with something that you don't know and you can't handle for them.
Yeah.
And saying, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have the answers for you, but you're welcome to come over and cry. You're welcome to like hang out and watch the game or whatever. But no, it's like, I just feel like so many of those people and church people, all of them, it's like, oh, someone came and asked a question about Jesus. What, you know, I think it's this, so I'm going to say that, and that's that.
Right. Yeah, they had no idea how to handle that situation, and instead of admitting it, they...
Just, like, how hard is it to say, hey, dude, I know I was like a leader, or I am a leader at this place, or whatever, but I don't want you to come to me with everything, because I'm just a dude, like you. This is my position, you know? And like, if I have the answer, or I think I can help you, I'll help you. But you don't need to grovel. You don't need to call me fucking pastor, blah, blah, blah. Pastor's not my name. That's what I do. That was always so, talk about be humble. That's the most prideful thing I've ever heard in my life. There was times, I think I already told this story. I guess I'll tell it again. Like, we were doing a production at a place that we rented, and the guy who worked for that place was helping with sound and a lot of different stuff. And he was calling the executive pastor by her name. She ignored him. For like 3 times he said her name, and then she turned around and said, Pastor blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, Pastor blah, blah, blah. Do you want to do this? Like, straight up ignored this fucking guy who doesn't even go to our church. Like, that is just a picture of humility, right?
Wow, I want to come there now.
Yeah, like, I mean, I never really understood that. I did it because I was just like, whatever, you know, I'm like,
Not worth
small
arguing
potatoes.
over.
I'm going to pick my battles.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm sure it made her feel good. I'm sure it made them all feel good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they really respect me. Like, yeah, cool. But that's not humility. Like, and it's not humble to act like you always have the answer.
Yeah. I mean, if someone wants to call you that, sure, but don't make people call you that.
That's one of my biggest problems with church, actually, is like, it's so not humble. It's like, it's completely designed to be like this hierarchy where somebody preaches the word every week. What? Can't we all share? Are we not? That's not, you know, it's like, cool, you're the boss, like, this is your thing, you started it, that's fine, that's one thing. But wouldn't it be better if there was, like, diversity? No, yeah, we are diverse, but you got to go through these steps and make sure to treat me this way, and we're going to test you first.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just kind of going off now, but...
Yeah, but it's true.
Yeah, I just feel like, I feel like I'm disgusted by Christians in church because I just don't see humility at all.
Yeah.
Humility there was an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Because we were kind of drilled with, like, you know, follow me as I follow Christ. You know, follow me. And let me show you how to do this, and let me show you how to do that. And so it's like, that's your thinking. I'm gonna do what they do. And then you do what they do, which was berate people and flaunt your authority and just basically be completely emotionally unintelligent and all that stuff. And then you got in trouble for doing that. It's like, what? I'm just following you. I'm literally just communicating back to you the way you communicate to me.
But because you're an authority, that's not allowed.
It was like, you just couldn't win.
Yeah. That was it, because we aren't allowed to win. She has to be the winner.
Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that.
So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And next week, we're going to be going over another cultural value, sharing some more awesome stories.
What's the next one?
Gosh, I don't remember. There's
It's...
so many. It's hard to keep them all in order.
We're audaciously generous.
Oh, man. I got some good ones about that. Oh, and if you have any stories you'd like to share about that, just send us a DM or comment on this video, and we'll make sure to put it in our next video, because I feel like it's really interesting to hear perspectives, like more than just our perspective, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's it.